Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. After the fragile hopes in the previous episode, after the efforts that once seemed enough, after the thoughts that everything would finally find a way out, it seemed that Jack and Tien had managed to grasp an opportunity, had stepped into a new phase, a lighter one, a more stable one. But no, things did not go that way. Not slowing down, not stopping, but turning into a completely different direction. A direction no longer as peaceful as they had hoped. No longer simple calculations. No longer choices they could control. But a path full of pressure, full of risks, and more dangerous than ever. Jack's company, the thing he had spent so much time, so much effort to build, in the end, still could not be saved. Not because he didn't try, not because he gave up too soon, but because there are things that no matter how hard you try, still cannot be changed. Incomplete projects, unable to continue, unable to be finished. Money already invested, but not yet recovered. Everything like scattered pieces that could not be put back into a complete picture. Along with that came pressure from family, the looks, the questions, the expectations, not needing to be said out loud, but enough to make the person involved unable to ignore. Little by little, day by day, everything piled up. No more space, no more room to step back, pushing him into a position he never wanted. There was no other way. Jack made a decision. A decision. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to. A decision that he himself clearly understood was very dangerous. He borrowed money from outside. Not from a bank. Not from places with clear procedures. Not loans that could be controlled, but from loan sharks. A choice. Fast. Easy to access. But accompanied by consequences impossible to predict. At first, he thought he could manage it. Just needed a little more time. Just needed a little space to breathe. Just one more chance to reorganize everything. He believed he could save it all. Save his work. Save what remained. Save even what was slowly slipping away. But reality was not like he thought. It gave him no time, no opportunity, no space to think. Interest began to rise. Not slowly, not step by step, but rapidly. Not monthly, but daily. Every number, every accumulating amount, like a vortex, with no stopping point. Interest on interest, growing, endlessly, relentlessly, stacking upon itself. So fast, he couldn't keep up. Every time he looked at the numbers, the weight grew heavier. It was no longer just money, but pressure. No longer just debt, but a burden, pressing on every thought. No matter how hard he tried, no matter what he did, no matter how much he cut away unnecessary things, no matter how much he let go of what once mattered most, It still wasn't enough. He even sold the company. What was once everything, now just a number. Converted. To solve only part of the problem. He liquidated everything he could, holding nothing back. No regrets. Just hoping to reduce a part of the burden. But the money he got was still not enough. Not enough to close everything. Not enough to end the spiral. Not enough to bring him back to safety. The debt not only didn't decrease, but kept growing. Like something out of control. The harder he tried, the deeper he was pulled in. The more he wanted to escape, the more he was dragged back. Pressure began to tighten. No longer vague. No longer a distant fear. But something very real. In every day. In every moment. The phone calls were no longer occasional, but constant. No longer reminders, but demands. No longer normal conversations, but sounds filled with tension. Threats became more intense. No more distance. No more restraint. Only pressure. Every word, every warning, pushed him into a corner. A corner with no way out. And then, the thing Jack feared the most was not the numbers, not the pressure, but the consequences of all of it. In the end, it happened. One afternoon, with no warning signs. Nothing unusual. Everything was still unfolding like the days before. Slowly. Peacefully. Like a familiar rhythm of life. Inside the small house, Tien stayed beside her mother. The space was quiet. Undisturbed. Just ordinary moments. Yet bringing a sense of safety. Until the door was slammed. Not a gentle knock. Not a call from outside. But heavy pounding. Rapid. So forceful that the air inside the house suddenly changed. A sound. Enough to shatter the silence. Enough to leave those inside unprepared. And then the door opened. Strange men appeared. Unfamiliar. Unannounced. With no indication that they would come. They stood there. Without introduction. Without explanation. Their mere presence was enough to create unease. No greetings. No basic courtesy. No distance. They stepped straight into the house. Decisively. Overpoweringly. As if it was only natural. The atmosphere immediately became suffocating. The initial peace was gone. The sense of safety disappeared. Replaced by tension. Spreading quickly. Filling the entire space. Jack's mother had no time to understand what was happening. Only knew that this situation was not normal. Nothing like anything before. Panic was clear on her face. Without needing words. It was obvious. She was afraid. Tien stood there. For the first time. Facing such a situation. No experience. No preparation. No way of knowing what she should do. She tried to stay calm. Tried not to panic. Tried to stand firm. under those pressuring gazes. But her eyes could not hide it. Fear was clearly visible. Not a vague fear, but something real, right in front of her. Those men did not waste time. Their words were no longer questions, no longer conversation, no longer debt collection in the usual way, but force, pressure, pushed higher, words carrying clear threats. When will you pay? If you don't pay, don't blame us. Each word, each sentence, not loud, but heavy. No need to shout, yet enough to make the listener unable to stay calm. The tension kept rising, little by little. No pause. It did not disappear, did not decrease, did not stop, just because of a chaotic moment. It was still there, silent, but heavy, like a shadow, always following behind, impossible to shake off. The numbers kept existing, kept increasing, not waiting, not allowing any delay. And those people were the same. They were not the kind who would stop after one appearance, not the kind who would leave after applying pressure once. They would come back. No need to guess, no need to think much. Just looking at what had happened was enough to understand. What just occurred was not the end. It was only the beginning. A sign that everything was entering a new phase. A phase where the intensity would no longer be the same. And the situation did not stop here. Not a passing wave, not a temporary incident, but a chain of events that could continue to unfold. No one knew when, no one was sure to what extent, but everyone understood that everything was not over. The atmosphere in the house seemed to linger, not just silence, but a feeling of heaviness. Each person carried their own thoughts, unspoken, yet impossible to ignore. Jack stood there, amid everything that had just happened, amid the consequences, clearly present before his eyes. A question gradually surfaced. Not an easy question, not something that could be answered immediately. What would Jack do when every path seemed to be pushed into a dead end? No more choices, no more directions, no more room for mistakes. Every next step carried risk. Every decision could change everything. He was not only facing pressure, but also the consequences of everything that had happened. And ahead, there were no guarantees, no certainty, no promises, only things that could not yet be predicted. As for Tien, after that shock, it was not just a fall, not just physical pain, but a deep impact from within. An experience she had never faced before. A feeling not easy to forget. Would she be able to stand firm? Not just to get back up after the fall, but to remain strong in the days ahead, when fear was no longer just a passing feeling, but something that could return At any time, when what had just happened was still so vivid, when reality had not yet allowed her to regain calm, and their family was not just individuals, but a whole. What happened did not affect only one person, but spread to everyone. A crisis, not small, not easy to overcome. How would they face it? How would they find a solution? What would they be able to hold on to amid the tightening pressure? There were no answers yet. No clear path laid out. Only questions waiting for answers. And everything lay ahead. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow what happens next. And don't miss the upcoming developments.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình nhé. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video về câu chuyện của Tự Tiên và Giác ấy mọi người. Thì như mọi người cũng đã biết thì Tự Tiên và Giác hiện tại đang mắc phải một khoản nợ rất là lớn khi mà cả hai đang bị khó khăn về kinh tế. Và Giác thì trước đó thì anh đã để cứu vớt công ty thì anh đã phải đi vay một số tiền khá lớn nặng lãi ở bên ngoài, và bây giờ công ty phá sản, anh còn phải thanh lý công ty bán đi, nhưng mà do khoản nợ quá lớn đổi lãi mẹ đẻ lãi con, anh không thể giải quyết được điều đó, dẫn đến việc là anh bị rơi vào cái rắc rối như hiện tại. Vậy thì liệu diễn biến tiếp theo sẽ ra sao? Tự Tiên và Giác có thể vượt qua được cái khó khăn này hay không? Thì mọi người cùng đón xem ở trên kênh mình và trong những tập tiếp theo nhé. Còn bây giờ thì mình xin phép chào tạm biệt mọi người và hẹn gặp lại.